Nicaragua, a small Central American country of lakes, volcanoes, and a young revolution. This is a series of reflections and commentaries by North Americans who've traveled to Nicaragua since the Sandinista government was established in 1979. I'm Nina Serrano, and I'm the producer of this program, which consists of interviews and songs with Pete Seeger, Joan Baez, Holly Near, the Looters, and the Reverend Don Chase. They're all controversial and outspoken in their views. However, they've each had a unique experience in Nicaragua. I hope you will enjoy their stories and songs. Pete Seeger is one of the leading folk singers in the United States and has been singing for over 40 years. He was a member of the Weavers and performed with Leadbelly and Woody Guthrie. Today, his songs are heard not just in the United States, but all over the world.
My wife and I were greatly honored in the month of April 1983 to be invited to attend an extraordinary music festival in Nicaragua.
Con ustedes, de Estados Unidos, Pete Seeger.
They sang along with me on the songs like If I Had a Hammer. I'd written that song with Lee Hayes 34 years ago, and there they were singing with me. They liked yodeling, and I sang an old yodeling cowboy blues. And then, of course, I'm very proud that a song they've long known is one that I helped bring to their attention about 22 years ago. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crecen las palmas. Yo soy un hombre sincero, de donde crecen las palmas. Y antes de morir me quiero echar mis versos del alma. Guantanamera, Guajira, Guantanamera. The most moving thing for me, though, was to sing a Nicaraguan song which I had learned. It's an extraordinary song because, like Christmas carols the world over, it makes a local story of this.
Maria sueña que el hijo, igual que el tata, sea carpintero, pero el cipetillo piensa, mañana quiero ser guerrillero.
My wife and I made a big banner with the words of the chorus, so everywhere I go, I get audiences singing with me.
Jonathan Maria, ella va a planchar muy humildemente la ropa regosa, la mujer hermosa del terrateniente. Get both notes. Let's try it. Let's get some harmony. Some people sing Cristo ya nació, others sing Cristo ya nació, or any other note you want. One. I sing Cristo ya nació en la cagrina del jefe pavón. Jonathan Maria, ella va a planchar muy humildemente la ropa que goza la mujer hermosa del terrateniente. Hey!
When we learned that singer and songwriter Holly Near was back from Nicaragua, we went to hear what she had to say. Holly learned to sing as a child by listening to records of the Weavers, and since then has had much affection for Pete Seeger.
I met with Pete in New York, and he had just gotten back from Nicaragua, and I was walking along this dusty road, and he stopped me And I was late for a performance or something, I can't remember, but he stopped and said, no, I have to tell you about Nicaragua, because he had just gotten back and he was so excited about his journey.
How did the Nicaraguan people receive an American musician?
With great love. With great love. And curiosity. I mean, there's not a whole lot of redheads in Nicaragua. It was very peaceful to be with these musicians, because already the fact that I had bothered to come to Nicaragua and the fact that they knew that there was a reason for us to be friends. When you go to Nicaragua and you get together, you already know where you stand. You have a common bond already by virtue of being willing to talk to each other, which is something our president's been unwilling to do. Nicaragua has problems, but there's a kind of an energy and a commitment to solving those problems to the best interest of the majority of people, that every decision's being made in the best interest of the farmer and the shoemaker, as well as the teacher and the mothers and the children. And people are being considered. And that to me is all one can ask of one's fellow citizens, you know, that we live with, is that we be considered. The songs of Nicaragua and El Salvador will long outlast the singers who must face the guns at war. They sing from the line of fire, and they sing from a fire within. All across the land, the poets stand. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. And it could have been me, but instead it was you. So I'll keep doing the work you were doing as if I were too. I'll be a student of life, a singer of songs, a farmer of food, and the righter of wrong. Oh, it could have been me, but instead it was you. And it may be me, dear sisters and brothers, before we are through. But if you can sing for freedom, 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 if you can sing for freedom, I can too.
I visited Reverend Don Chase at his home in Sebastopol, California, soon after his 4th visit to Nicaragua. Don received a master's degree in history from Stanford University. He's been involved with Nicaragua for over half a century. As a young seminary student, he organized protests against the U.S. invasion of Nicaragua.
My own personal involvement goes back to 1927, when the Marines were first resented by and attacked by Sandinistas in Nicaragua who tried to drive them out. I was making speeches in New York City against U.S. involvement in Nicaragua at that time. The United States had its Marines in Nicaragua, ruling the country, building up a National Guard, which they finally left in charge when they left there. But it was without authority from Congress and without authority of any treaty, and was an outlaw kind of a thing to have occurred. And so I opposed it, because I was against the violation of human rights anywhere in the world, and always have been. And so I protested this and asked that our government pull out of Nicaragua. For the next 45 years, the Somoza family ruled Nicaragua and used the National Guard as their private army, thus becoming one of the most wealthy families of Latin America. During this same period, the people of Nicaragua had one of the poorest standards of living in all of Latin America. The poor all over the country were resisting their poverty that was forced upon them by the economic conditions prevalent under Somoza, and they filled the armies with their manpower. The rebellion began to grow, The Guard harassed the movement towards independence and towards freedom, imprisoning rebels and torturing them. The youth of the country took to the streets, led by the Sandinista front, making barricades, using handguns, homemade bombs, and a popular uprising against the Somoza dictatorship.
We are expecting the soldier, huh? Because they are going to shoot their army and they're going against the people. Huh? We are students, school teacher, engineer. We are not communists, all right? We are democrats. We want the freedom for our country, all right? We don't want that Somoza continue to rule the nation, all right? Because Somoza is the biggest killer here in Central America.
It was not until late in 1979, however, that the forces of the revolution became strong enough to take city after city. Finally, at the cost of 50,000 deaths, mostly civilian victims of Somoza, the revolution was won. Here is Nicaragua, about the size of Iowa, with a population about the size of Iowa, about 2 3/4 million people. Its neighbors are Costa Rica, and there are rebels down there invading from Costa Rica and attacking, and up here's Honduras, where most of the Contras are. They are the people who were members of the National Guard who were driven out because they would have been jailed for their crimes if they had stayed. So they want to come back in, and our government likes to call them the democratic element of Nicaragua. They were the people that persecuted and robbed the people of Nicaragua when Somoza was there. The United States then has had a long history of being involved in Nicaragua and trying to dominate it.
Singer and human rights activist Joan Baez went to Nicaragua in 1981 during a tour of Latin America.
No, no, no nos moverán, no, no, no nos moverán, la ra ra ra, la li ra 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 ra, no nos moverán, bam bam bam, no nos moverán. Muchas gracias a Nicaragua, a ustedes, gracias.
Joan met with government leader and founding member of the Sandinista Front, Tomás Borge. Joan asked many questions on human rights and requested to visit a prison to see for herself the conditions and treatment of the ex-National Guardsmen awaiting trial or serving time for their war crimes. Tomás Borge took her to the very jail where he was once imprisoned and tortured by Somoza's National Guard. Borge taught Joan the words to a song based on a poem he'd written to his former torturers, My Personal Revenge. Back in the United States, she sang it to concert audiences and in numerous television appearances.
The song I'd like to do is one I learned in Nicaragua. Nicaragua has just had a violent revolution. I went there in spite of a lot of my feelings about armed struggle, you know, which are contradictory for a pacifist. But I met a very interesting man who was the Minister of the Interior, and I said, I've heard a lot of Nicaraguan songs that have come out of this period, but can you find me one song that doesn't have anything about guns or mothers, leaving their children home to pick up the gun and go and fight the glorious battle, because I really don't find any taste for that song. And he taught me a beautiful song called Mi Venganza Personal, My Personal Revenge. My personal vengeance is to see the children walking in the street and going to school. My personal vengeance is to walk in the street and see no beggars and to take the bondage off the eyes of my people.
Mi venganza personal será el derecho de tus hijos a la escuela y a las flores. Mi venganza personal será entregarte este canto florecido sin temores. Mi venganza personal será mostrarte la bondad que en los ojos de mi pueblo, implacable en el combate, siempre has sido, y más firme y generoso en la victoria. Mi venganza personal será decirte buenos días sin mendigos en las calles, cuando en vez de encarcelarte te proponga que sacuda la tristeza de los ojos, cuando vos, aplicador de la tortura, ya no puedes levantar ni la mirada. Mi venganza personal será entregarte estas manos que una vez vos maltrataste, sin lograr que abandonaran la ternura. Y es que el pueblo fue el que el más te odió, cuando el canto fue lenguaje de violencia. Pero el pueblo hoy, bajo su piel, rojo y negro, tiene herido el corazón. Y es que el pueblo fue el que el más te odió, cuando el canto fue lenguaje de violencia. Pero el pueblo hoy, bajo su piel, rojo y negro, tiene herido el corazón.
That's beautiful. Really beautiful. And a beautiful message, too.
Everybody in their places, lights, camera, action!
Oh, wow, it's deafening. The tape is terrific, though, really good.
What tape?
The rock tape that the looters made in Nicaragua that French TV bought.
Why were we invited to Nicaragua? You mean technically how were we invited?
No, why?
Why? We were invited because nobody else wanted to go.
Well, that's partly true. They really wanted to establish this cultural link. It's like a cultural exchange, but it's very popular amongst the youth in particular. And they told us that they had a particular interest in bringing rock and roll because it's like, I guess there's a certain impression amongst a certain section of the people there that like rock and roll isn't like revolutionary. It's looked down upon by the revolutionaries, but they dig it. And I think that the Sandinistas wanted to make it clear to the people that they weren't down on rock and roll.
There were a lot of open ears there, and we made the people happy, made them dance. I mean, we had a great time down there. It was just a thing of sharing, and we want to do it some more.
I realize that a lot of people are sort of like tripping on the subject of why would you go. For us, it was a chance for us to practice what we preach. You know, we sing about world music, we sing about people being free, we sing about living and life, you know, and about just, you know, standing up and saying that you're alive. You know, that's what we sing about. And we don't think that there should be any borders, and the ones that exist should be torn down. And we think that music can do that. And we think we did it in a small way by going to Nicaragua. So it was just like an opportunity to do what we've been saying.
What is it with these settler states? From South Africa to North Ireland, from Australia to the promised land. What? What's that you say? The daddy of them all is the USA? Cowboys and Indians,
Nicaraguans love America in spite of everything that the American government is doing to them. They believe in what America originally believed in.
I would say the vast majority of the inhabitants of this country are totally, you know, they feel like so far away from that, even though, you know, it's their tax dollars that are paying to promote this ongoing fighting and things.
The United States exports Marines, right? And Nicaragua exports revolution, but Nicaragua doesn't export revolution in a box or on a ship. They export it by example. That's what turns everybody on. That's what turns on the Costa Ricans and the Panamanians and the Venezuelans and the El Salvadorans, and that's what turns me on.
I'm just going to explain actually what this trip to Nicaragua did to me personally. It actually renewed my faith in the human race. In that I grew up here in the United States, and as I grew up, you know, I got a job, 16 years old, and I'm working. My first day I'm working, and I'm wondering, what am I doing? I'm spending my time doing something I don't want to do in order to make money. And you know, and it seems to me that in this country, that's what motivates people, is greed and money in order to buy things that eventually break down anyways, and so you buy more things. And that was, I've never traveled a lot, and going to Nicaragua and meeting those people down there, it was the first time I've been anywhere that I really felt like what was motivating the people wasn't greed, it was directly from their heart. We spent an evening in Esteli where we did a show, and after the show, you know, we spent hanging out in the hotel room, and there was gunfire, you know, off in the hills, and that was the first time I've ever heard war. And like all night long, you know, it was gunfires and babies crying and dogs barking and chickens crowing, and I didn't get any sleep at all, you know. And
which is really what bummed you out, right?
Well, actually, that's true, because we had a big day the next day, and I wanted to get as much sleep. Yeah, hey. That's when it struck me that, you know, it's like there's a war going on here, you know, now. We're here, we're having a good time, but these people are going to wake up the next morning and, you know, the barbed wire is in front of them. You know, they're still continuing the struggle.
Joe Mama, hey, Joe Mama, Joe Mama, hey, Joe Mama, Joe Mama, hey, Joe Mama.
This machine surrounds hate and forces it to surrender, I hope. I can't tell you much about the rest of Nicaragua. We went down there for 7 days when I saw my fellow musicians from many parts of Latin America. I ended off my report singing a song that was sung at the People's Music Festival, one of many little gatherings in New York City in January '83. A young black woman, Robbie McCauley, is a member of a group called the Sedition Singers. And there'd been a long evening, a lot of protest songs. She gets up, it must have been 2 o'clock in the morning. She had her 1.5-year-old baby daughter on her arm. She'd been trying to keep her quiet all evening. She said, "I think I'll sing a song I made up for my daughter." "Oh, daughter dear, we're struggling some fierce out here. I will have to turn into an ocean. You will have many mothers. Oh, daughter dear, we're struggling something fierce out here. I will have to turn into an ocean. You will have many mothers." And on that rather intimate note, I ended my little report of some music in the United States, which does not get played on the television, I told them, or on the radio, but it's all over. A big burly man from Venezuela, Ale Primera, came up to me and threw his arms about me in a big bear hug, almost weeping. He said, "I hate the Pentagon, but I love the American people." We've got to realize how many friends we could have around the world if we, the American people, could get rid of the people who have given America a lousy name. With the money that we pay in taxes, they go down there. They topple an elected government in Chile. They go in with their guns and support another dictator with our tax money. America, down there, it's a dirty word for a lot of people. My parents and grandparents and great-grandparents fought for a flag with stripes and stars. Down there, that's a hated symbol for a lot of people. I said, "Thank you for inviting a Yankee down." They said, "Oh, you're not a Yankee, Pete." I said, "A Yankee is someone who comes down here with guns and money. You're a North Americano, but we know the different kinds of North Americanos. We know there are many different kinds.